Here's something important that I'd like you to think about today, and it's this: emotions are visitors, they're not housemates. Someone once said this to me, and the more I've thought about it, the more I've sort of reflected on it, the more sort of helpful it seems. They arrive, they stay for a while, and then, if we allow them to, they eventually leave. But many of us are never really taught that. And when difficult emotions appear, like sadness, anger, anxiety, disappointment, it can sometimes feel as though they've taken up permanent residence in our lives. We may begin to think, this is just how I am now. But emotions were never meant to live with us forever. They were meant to visit, teach us something, and then move on. Understanding that can change how we respond to them. So, hi, first time here. I'm Julie, also known as Great Granny Julie on TikTok. Over the past 70 or so years, I've gathered what I feel are valuable insights into life, and I hope that by sharing them with you, I can make your journey a little bit easier. So, if you're interested in hearing more from me, then please feel free to subscribe. Anyway, emotions. Every emotion carries some kind of message. Anger might be telling us that a boundary has been crossed. Sadness might be reminding us that something meaningful has been lost. Anxiety could be pointing towards uncertainty or fear. Emotions are not enemies. They are often signals just asking us to pay attention. But once we've listened and taken action, they don't need to remain indefinitely. The problem comes when we try to fight them. Many people have been taught that certain emotions are unacceptable. So when they appear, we push them away, we suppress them, we pretend they aren't there. But emotions that are constantly pushed aside have a habit of returning again and again, and often more strongly. Sometimes the healthiest response is simply to acknowledge them, to say quietly, yeah, I see you, I understand why you're here, but we don't need to build them a permanent home. Acknowledging an emotion does not mean allowing it to take over our identity. Feeling anxious does not mean you are an anxious person. Feeling sad does not mean that your life will always feel this way. Emotions need to move through us. They are temporary experiences, not permanent definitions. When we remember that, we can create space between ourselves and that feeling. So imagine emotions as visitors arriving at the door. Some stay briefly, some stay a little longer, but none of them are meant to move in permanently. When we allow emotions to pass through naturally without clinging to them or resisting them, they tend to soften over time and eventually they move on. One question people often ask me when we talk about this idea is, how do we actually let those emotions go? So, if you're feeling anxious or frustrated or upset, it's not as simple as just deciding the feeling should disappear. Often, the first step is actually the opposite of what we expect. It's acknowledging that emotion rather than fighting it. When we notice a feeling, name it. I feel angry. I feel upset. I feel let down, and allow ourselves to experience it without judging it too harshly. And then it often begins to lose some of its intensity. We then need to look at what triggered that emotion and look at ways we can release it. I'll be going into more depth on this on my next video. Which emotion do you find the hardest to let go of, to let pass through? Part of emotional maturity is recognizing that feelings are an important part of being human, but they are not the whole story. They come, they teach, and then they leave, and we often become a little less afraid of them. So remember, please, emotions are visitors, they are not housemates. Thank you for being here. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next video.